I am Taya, a weak human in the world of werewolves. 5 years ago, I didn't want to sell myself, but for some very grave reasons I had to. Life gave me no choice. I cried, pleading for anyone to buy me for the night. Men passed by, glaring dirty looks at me, until a tall, broad-shouldered man stepped in front, shielding me from the hungry eyes around. Without a word, he dropped a handful of bills into my trembling hands. When I dared to look up, my breath caught. The man offering to buy me wasn't just anyone. He was the Alpha Griffin, the most feared and legendary werewolf in all of America. Alpha Griffin was still in the room. Instead of asking me to dress and leave, he handed me a contract. A contract that said I belonged to him for every night that followed. But wait, Taya was just one of his many one-night stands. Why did he want to be with her every day? Taya tried to resist his offer, but with the look that he had on his face, she never dared ask. In the werewolf world, you don't question an alpha, especially not when you're someone as weak as Taya. And on top of all that, she also has a terminal heart disease and doesn't have long to live. She never stood a chance against the powerful Alpha Griffin, so she signed and decided to fulfill that contract. 5 years have passed, their contract is still on, and just like that, she truly became his. At least, that's what she thought. When you spend 5 years in someone's arms, even if you're just a contract, some foolish, desperate part of you starts to hope. Unfortunately, Taya started to fall for him and started hoping that maybe, just maybe, he feels something for her too. Stupid, right? Yes, absolutely stupid. Because her dreamland came crashing today after 5 years. Alpha Griffin's private jet arrived a bit early today, and he went straight to Taya's room. "Come here," he demanded in his gruff and emotionless tone, without giving any indication of what he was thinking or feeling. As soon as Taya was at his side, he pulled her into his arms and kissed her lips aggressively, without any traces of the warmth that Taya longed for. His tongue delved into her mouth, twisting around hers, and desire flowed through her body. He had been away on pack business for 3 months. He probably wouldn't let Taya go easily tonight. As she had expected, he was rougher than usual and didn't stop his thrusts until she was too exhausted for more. When Taya woke up, she found herself alone in bed. A few minutes later, Griffin came into the room, a towel wrapped around his waist. Seeing that she was awake, he gave her a stony look and said, "You don't need to come anymore." She blinked, clutching the covers tightly around her body. What did he mean? "I'm canceling our contract. You're fired." She felt the blood drain from her face and her heart stopped for a minute. Taya used to think of herself as his girlfriend, but she was even more shocked to hear his choice of words. Fired. Not even breaking up? Fired! Suppressing the sharp pain in her heart, Taya murmured to Griffin, "But the contract will expire in 6 months. Can't we wait for a little longer?" Her voice was somewhat pleading. She only had 3 months left to live, and the only thing she wanted was to stay with him until the end of her life. Griffin remained silent, staring at her with his stoic, vacant expression. His silence was all she needed. She knew his decision was final. After 5 long years of trying, Taya realized that she had failed to thaw Griffin's frozen heart, and it was time for her to wake up from her illusion. Taya took the contract and plastered on a fake smile, attempting to feign indifference. "Don't be so serious, I was just joking." Then she added, "I'm glad this is over. I get 6 months off." "How perfect!" Griffin paused as he adjusted his shirt sleeves, then lifted his gaze to her. "You're glad it's over?" "Yep. I'm not the little girl I was when I agreed to this. I'm glad I can finally have a real boyfriend once I leave here." Griffin's eyes were filled with deep and unidentifiable emotions. After staring at her for a while, he looked at his watch and turned to leave. "Do whatever you want." Looking at his back as he turned and walked away. Her smile faded. After Griffin left, his assistant walked in with some documents. "Miss Palmer, this is Mr. Knight's compensation for you. In addition to the real estate and cars, he had also placed $5 million in your account. I don't want it." Taya shook her head and picked up the bag beside her. She took out a debit card and handed it to Andre. "This is all the money Griffin paid me over the years. I never spent a single penny, and I don't want it. The PIN number is his birthday." Andre was dumbfounded. She placed the card on that pile of documents and left. Andre returned to the Nightpack headquarters, handed the documents to Griffin, and told him what Taya said. With an indifferent gaze, Griffin glanced at the items on his desk. His stoic gaze fixed on the debit card, You checked the balance? Yes, Alpha. Is there additional money in there? Yes, Alpha. Andre nodded, the exact amount Griffin had paid Taya for her virginity. Griffin frowned, and Andre heard his wolf rumbling. After a moment of staring at the card, he stretched out his hand, picked up the piece of plastic, and snapped it in half, his claws starting to extend. Andre, get rid of all this, he growled. Meanwhile, Taya took her suitcase to her best friend Harper Dukes. She gently knocked on the door, and waited. They both grew up together in the orphanage, and she was the only real relationship left in Taya's life. As soon as Harper opened the door, a wide smile appeared on her face. Oh wow, Taya, what are you doing here? Taya tightened her grip on the suitcase. I need a place to crash, she said quietly. Only then did Harper see the suitcase and a look of worry replacing her smile. What's wrong? I just broke up with him. Taya forced a smile to hide her pain. Harper looked closely at Taya and saw past her pretense. In a matter of seconds. Harper hugged her tightly. Oh, what? We'll talk. You did the right thing by coming here. Harper knew how much Taya liked Griffin, how much more she wanted with the powerful, distant Alpha. They shared everything. Harper remembered that dark night 5 years ago just as much as Taya did. If it weren't for a man named Silas John, Taya wouldn't have had to sell herself to Griffin. If that accident had never happened, Taya could have had a happy life. Shrugging off her thoughts, Harper led Taya into the house. You don't need a place to crash, Taya. This is your home, too. Harper had always been like this, unconditionally good to Taya. Harper knew all her secrets except the one of her terminal illness, and the last thing Taya wanted to do was burden her with that knowledge. Taya gazed at her and slowly said, Harper, I have returned every penny that Griffin ever gave me. Now I don't think I need that job anymore. I want to quit. Harper nodded in agreement and said, Great! I was about to suggest the same. God, you look so weak. It's the perfect time to quit your job and take some time for yourself, and don't worry about anything. I've got your back. Taya wrapped her arms around her best friend and squeezed her tightly. The next morning, Taya applied makeup to conceal her pale face and lips and went into the office to quit her job. Just as she sat down and was about to turn on the computer to write her resignation letter, she heard her colleagues talking. Have you seen the email? Elder Thorin's daughter is taking over today, Brielle said. I heard she had just returned from studying abroad in one of the European pack cities, and you know what? She's the long-lost love of Alpha Knight. Oh my God, really? Margaret's jaw hung open in shock. Brielle lowered her voice. Yes, Alpha Knight and Elder Thorin's daughter were childhood sweethearts. As soon as Miss Thorin returned to the country, Alpha Knight personally went to the airport to pick her up. That's enough to prove that he still has strong feelings for her. Margaret covered her mouth, her big round eyes wide. Oh my God, it's like the perfect romance. Upon hearing, Taya's heart spasmed and misery spread through her. Now she knew why Griffin had terminated their contract early. Because his long-lost love, his real love, had come back. But if he was already in love with someone, why did he make Taya sign a contract to continue their relationship? This question kept buzzing in her head. Just as Taya was about to ask Brielle where she'd heard this, the elevator opened with a ding. There she was, Elder Thorin's daughter, and wrapped around her waist was his hand, Griffin's hand. He even pecked a kiss on her cheek. The flashbacks hit Taya like a punch. Griffin's touch, his breath, the way he held her when they made love. Now those same hands were on Tara's waist, and those lips on her cheek. The moment Taya saw Miss Tara Thorin's face, she finally understood why Griffin bought her that night and drew up that contract 5 years ago. Except for a few minor differences, Taya had almost the exact same face as Griffin's former lover. Taya used to think Griffin would return her feelings one day, but now she knew. She was only a temporary substitute. Taya's chest tightened almost to the point that she couldn't breathe, and pain swept through her body. There was no way she could bear to see the two of them so happily in love in front of her every day. So Taya quickly handed over her resignation letter and left. As she hurried out of the company, she saw Roman Stark, Beta of the Stark Pack. And her heart sank again. This man was a well-known creep in Arcadia. He had first targeted her when she went to deliver documents to the Stark Pack a month ago. Since then, he had often come to the Midwest Pax Association offices to harass her under the guise of business. Taya was scared when she saw him walking toward her, so she quickly turned around. But Roman was quicker. He grabbed her hand and pulled her into his arms. "Where are you going in such a rush, baby?" He lowered his head, leaned close to her ear. Taya pushed Roman away desperately, but he held her waist tight. "You smell so good." He pushed his nose into her hair and inhaled deeply, his hands moving upward to her breasts. Taya pressed down on his hand and hissed out, "Beta Stark, please behave yourself." "Behave? Why should I?" "That defeats the purpose of being a beta," Roman said mischievously. "Beta Stark, please. We hardly know each other." Taya dipped her head, disgusted by his touch. "Maybe we aren't close now," he growled. "But if you spend one night with me, we could get to know each other much better." And he kissed her cheek forcefully. The feel of his ice-cold lips on her skin almost made her puke. Just as Taya was about to punch Roman in the face, she heard a voice behind her. "Hello, Griffin?" When Taya heard that name, her body stiffened. She slowly turned from Roman's unwanted embrace and looked toward Griffin, who was standing at the elevator. Was he watching everything all along? She couldn't see his expression clearly because she was too far away, but she felt his eyes staring at her without blinking. Elder Brooks Thorin was calling out his name as he had to discuss some things with him about his daughter Tara. Griffin nodded to something that Thorin said, and then they both left. Griffin didn't even spare Taya a glance when he passed by. Roman had been so focused on Taya that he hadn't realized that Alpha Knight was there. He quickly let go of Taya and chased after Griffin to greet him. However, Griffin entered his car and slammed the door shut. Having failed to catch him, Roman had no choice but to turn back and look for Taya, only to see her fleeing toward the guest elevator. Roman touched his lips that he had just pressed against Taya's skin and ordered his man, "Mason, go and find me this girl's address." Meanwhile, Taya returned home, put down her bag, and sat on the sofa in a daze. After sleeping for a while, a knock on the door woke her up. When Taya opened the door, Roman was standing there. Beta Stark? How did this creep find her? Taya tried to shove the door closed, but Roman stretched out his large, powerful arm and pushed to keep it open. Frightened, she took a step back. Taya was no match for a wolf shifter. "Miss Palmer, are you not going to invite me in?" "Sorry, Beta Stark, this is my friend's house, and I can't invite people here in her absence." There was no way she was willingly letting him in. She tried to close the door again, but Roman was not in a mood to listen to anything. He stepped in farther, entered forcefully, and closed the door behind him. "Beta Stark, what the heck are you trying to do? To sleep with you? Am I clear?" Roman felt like he was losing his mind, and he pushed Taya against the wall. "1,000,000, give yourself to me tonight." Taya trembled, desperately pushing against Roman's chest to force him away. "Get out, Roman. If you dare to force yourself on me tonight, I promise you'll see me in Pack Court tomorrow." Roman's hand paused again, but then he sneered, as if he had heard a great joke. "You think I'd be afraid of seeing you in court? Do you not know how powerful a beta is?" He scoffed. He was clearly not threatened at all. This jerk wasn't just some random pervert, but a rich and powerful wolf shifter. So, to save herself, she decided to change her strategy. Taya softened her voice. "Beta Stark, I didn't mean to threaten you with anything. It's just that I don't feel comfortable sleeping with someone I don't love. How about giving me some time, so I can get used to it? When I fall in love with you, things will get easier." Roman sneered. "You want me to wait until you fall in love with me? That's cute." Taya felt a bit defeated, but seeing that the desire in Roman's eyes wasn't as strong as before, she tried to persuade him more. "Beta Stark, how about 6 months? When I fall in love with you, I will be happy to sleep with you, okay?" "No." Roman refused, growling. "Okay, how about 3 months?" Taya had thought if not 6, he might agree for 3 months. And it was perfect because after 3 months, she would no longer be in this world. And if Roman still wanted her, well, he could go and sleep with her ashes. But to her surprise, he grabbed her chin and warned her, 3 days, you have 3 days to come to my bed willingly. Remember the next time I won't show this mercy." Oh no, 3 days? That was hard to accept. As Taya was about to reply, Roman let go of her, and she swallowed the words back. In any case, she was happy that she could at least get away tonight. Roman bent down and kissed her cheek. "All right, babe, see you in 3 days. By the way." He stopped halfway and turned to give her a pointed look. "Harper is your friend, right?" Taya's mask of obedience cracked for a moment. "What about her? Nothing. Stay home and wait for me, okay?" Roman chuckled. He didn't say anything threatening, but she knew exactly what he meant. If Taya dared to run away, he would go after Harper. Beta Stark, please leave Harper out of this. I will stay here for you. That's my good girl. Roman blew a kiss to her and left. Disgusting. Taya slammed the door shut and locked it. Taya's own life didn't matter that much to her. She was going to die soon anyway, but Harper still had a future in front of her. She was about to get married. She couldn't get Harper into trouble. Taya thought a lot about how to fight Roman. Finally, she went to the contacts on her phone, and her finger lingered on that one familiar name that had her heart beating hard and fast. It was Alpha Griffin's contact. He was the only one who would stand a chance against Roman. Taya pondered. If I called him, would he answer? But she knew when Griffin got tired of something, he never gave it a second glance. So she dropped the idea and went to sleep, dreading what Roman had planned for her. Next evening, Roman sent his assistant Mason to pick her up. Sitting in the car, Taya thought Mason would drive her to Roman's place, but she was taken to a mall where she was dolled up in an expensive gown, makeup, and the $1 million diamond necklace. Taya looked at herself in the mirror. She looked way too elite for her real status. Finally, when she was ready, Mason took her to the Nightshade. It was the city's largest nightclub, and the rich loved to do nasty things there. Mason led Taya to the door of a private room, where a strong arm suddenly wrapped around her waist. It was Roman, pulling her close. Then he leaned down to kiss her. "You look stunning today, babe." She turned frantically to avoid Roman's touch, but then she saw a man sitting on the sofa in front of her. Oh no. It was Alpha Griffin, looking at her with his dark, intimidating eyes. She had never thought Griffin would be in the same circle as Roman. Suddenly, she was glad that she didn't make that call to Griffin. As they reached closer, Roman announced, "Hello everyone, let me introduce you to my new girlfriend, Taya Palmer." Before she could even react to Roman's announcement, a man came to offer her a drink. "Hi, Miss Palmer. Nice to meet you. I am Preston Knight. Here, please have a drink." She had heard this name a few times when she was with Griffin. He was Alpha Griffin's cousin. Seeing Taya lost in thoughts, Roman whispered in her ear, "What are you thinking, Taya? Take the drink. Because of Preston, I have been able to schedule this project meeting with Alpha Griffin. You can't afford to displease him." Oh, it was not Griffin, but Preston whom Roman knew. Taya's confusion got cleared. But not wanting to offend Roman, she took the glass hurriedly and started gulping. Taya never drank alcohol when she lived with Griffin, because he didn't like the smell of it. So, instead of drinking the wine, she badly choked on it. As Roman saw her struggling, he took her in his arms and started patting her back to help her breathe. Griffin's cold gaze fell on Roman's hand holding Taya. Through her teary eyes, Taya looked at Griffin. She noticed the corners of his eyes were now scarlet, and the bloodthirsty chill of his wolf emanated from him, as if he wanted to rip Roman apart. Is he jealous? She thought to herself. But when she looked again, she found nothing in his eyes except indifference. She kinda laughed at herself for expecting anything from Griffin. Just then, Chloe, the woman next to Preston, suggested, "Now that all of us are here, why don't we play a game?" "What game?" Roman grinned. "Poker, but we will play in pairs," she said, tossing a deck of cards on the table. And the fun part is here, whoever loses has to take off a piece of clothing." Roman lit up. "Oh, I'm in." Everyone thought Griffin wouldn't be interested in such a game, so they knew all four of them could easily get teamed up in pairs. But to everyone's surprise, Griffin picked up a card and said, "I'm also in, let's play." Griffin had always avoided such places, let alone the games like that. Him agreeing was odd, but now no one dared to question him. Since they had to play in pairs, Roman decided to opt out, wanting to make a good impression on Alpha Griffin. After all, Roman was here to bag a very important project for his pack, and it wasn't possible without impressing Griffin. Taya also didn't want to play, but she had no voice in that room. Finally, Preston was teamed up with Taya. Chloe was with Alpha Griffin. As expected, card by card, Alpha Griffin defeated Team Preston and Taya, and it was finally time to pay the price of loss. "Strip! Strip!" Chloe began to cheer. Taya's expression froze. Preston was wearing a suit, so he took off his jacket, but Taya was only wearing a dress, and if she took off a piece of clothing, she would be left with nothing on. Chloe turned to look at Taya. "Miss Palmer, it's your turn now." Just as she was about to give in and start unzipping her dress, Preston's voice interrupted the tense silence. Okay, let's leave the lady out of it. I'll take off another piece of clothing for her." And he instantly removed his shirt. Taya looked at him gratefully. And just as everyone thought the game was over, Griffin blurted out, "No one gets off the hook so easily. Rules are rules." Everyone was stunned. Griffin had never been a lustful wool. Why was he so keen on seeing a nobody like Taya strip? Preston found himself in a state of confusion. As he tried to reason, "Griffin, I already took off my clothes. Why do you want her to do the same thing?" Roman took the opportunity to add, "Yes, please, Alpha Knight. Why don't we change her punishment? She can pour some wine for you?" And he signaled Taya to pour wine for Griffin. Taya was confused. Pouring wine? How is that a punishment? Well, she was about to learn soon. She picked up the expensive red wine on the table, walked up to Griffin and bent down to pour. Before the wine was poured out, Griffin covered the rim of the glass with his hand. "Not like this, kneel down," he growled. Taya had no choice. She lowered her head, gulped down the humiliation, and knelt down before Griffin. But as she was about to pour the wine into his glass, he covered the rim again, stared at her for a while, and spat out, "Leave it. You are dirty." Taya's heart sank, but Roman again was quick to interrupt. "Don't misunderstand, Alpha Knight. She's not that kind of girl. She's clean." Griffin snorted. "Is that so?" "Yes, Alpha. Trust me, I've verified." Alpha Griffin raised his cold, narrowed eyes and looked at Roman. "And just how did you verify that?" Roman didn't notice Griffin's strange reaction and replied proudly, "I've slept with her, of course." Upon hearing it, Griffin's hand tightened, and it almost looked as though he would snap the wine glass in two. He shifted his questioning gaze at Taya, but Taya was blank. She had no clue how to react to this lie of Roman. "Oh, okay, Roman," Griffin sneered. "Why don't we just color up this squeaky clean girlfriend of yours?" Taya was confused. What did Griffin even mean? "Pour the wine," Griffin ordered. Taya hurriedly started pouring, as Griffin looked down at her with a smug look across his face. Just as she thought he would drink, he raised the glass and slowly poured all of the red wine over her head. "Oh, goddess, that's what he meant by coloring me up?" Frozen in place with shock and disbelief, Taya couldn't make herself do anything more than look down at the wine dripping off of her, blinking slowly in astonishment at Griffin's behavior. "You really are a cheap woman," Griffin growled, tossed the glass aside, and left without looking back. Alpha Griffin was acting way too weird this evening. Everyone, even Roman, ran after him. It was not like Taya had any hopes from Roman, but now, after this grave humiliation, all her hopes with Griffin had also shattered. She was trembling all over as she stood up slowly with the help of the sofa and started walking home step by step, like a dead woman. Flashbacks were haunting her like a nightmare. Suddenly, a screeching sound pulled her out of her thoughts. It was a car that stopped in front of her. A man exited that car, walked up to her, and said respectfully, "Miss Palmer, Alpha Griffin is looking for you." "What? What does your Alpha Griffin want now? To crush me a little more? Tell him I am done with his stupid games. I am not going to meet him ever. Can he at least let me die in peace?" Taya finally blabbered all her bottled-up anger and started running. "The man had to block her way, Miss Palmer. Please stop. You know Alpha Knight's temper. He's not someone you can afford to offend." Taya finally came back to her senses. Oh yes, she stood no chance against all these powerful alphas and betas. Heaving a sigh at her pathetic life, Taya gave up and got into the car obediently, surprised to see that Alpha Griffin was already in the car. What? Andre wasn't here to take her to Griffin. Griffin himself had come. This whole situation was way too amusing. Unwillingly, she got into the car. "Alpha Knight, what do you need from me?" Taya kept her voice chilly and abrupt. Griffin pursed his lips at her tone as he turned to look at her. Taya got scared and turned to look away from him, but he suddenly leaned over. "It seems that your new sugar daddy treats you well." Chill ran through Taya's spine. She wanted to explain, but the words "new sugar daddy" rendered her silent. From the moment Roman introduced her as his woman, there was no point in trying to defend herself. He wouldn't believe her anyway. Why waste energy? When she didn't say anything in response, Griffin's face darkened. Then he lowered his voice and asked frostily, "When did you two sleep together and how many times?" Taya felt the blood rush from her face, leaving her lightheaded. No, we haven't done anything. Do you think I'll believe you?" He looked at her as if she were a dead person, but she still forced herself to explain. "Believe it or not, Alpha Griffin, I've never slept with him." Griffin gave that sneer of a smile again. "I'll know for sure after I check." Before Taya could ask what he was going to do, he parted her thighs. Taya grabbed Griffin's shoulder and cursed him for being a jerk. She tried to squirm away from him. However, he didn't seem to notice. "Griffin, are you crazy? Let go of me." Taya grabbed his shoulders tighter, full of shame and anger and desire, her fingernails almost digging into his flesh, but he refused to let go. At least Andre wasn't in the car to see this. Griffin was pulling at her garments, almost ripping them off, his eyebrows narrowing as he was confused about something. "What the heck are you doing?" Taya was furious, but his expression told her nothing. His urgent and fierce movements seemed off, completely unlike when they had sex. "Griffin Knight, stop!" Taya called out to him, but he didn't respond. He continued to examine her body. "You have no right to touch my body. You ended our contract." Hearing her words, Griffin finally paused. "Could you sell yourself to that creep Roman now? Is that why you won't let me touch you?" "Roman may be a creep, but at least he doesn't give me false hopes like you," Taya replied with her broken heart. "Answer me, have you sold yourself to Roman Stark?" Griffin growled. "Yes, Alpha Griffin, I did. And Beta Roman bought me, so now I am not answerable to you anymore. Once a man has purchased something, no one else is allowed to touch it. You taught me that rule, have you forgotten? So please stay away from me now and go back to Miss Tara." "What? What did you say?" Griffin roared. "I said please go back to your childhood sweetheart, Miss Tara. I am happy being with Roman. Actually, you know what, I did lie to you just now. I have already slept with Beta Stark a long time ago. We did it 3 times last night and 2 times today. Now that I'm his woman, you have no rights over me, Alpha Knight." Before Taya could even blink, Griffin's huge hand was crushing her throat. She couldn't breathe. Her chest burned, and she desperately clawed at his hand, trying to make him let go, but it was no use. She was helpless against an alpha as powerful as him. Tears streamed down her face as she struggled for air, praying he'd have mercy and let her live. Griffin's eyes widened as he watched the color drain from her face. She looked like she was about to die. He instantly loosened his grip on her. Taya gasped, sucking in deep breaths. She clutched her chest, barely able to force out a single word. "Meds." She needed her heart medicine immediately, or at least some oxygen. She couldn't breathe. "Help! My heart! Please save me!" She wasn't afraid of dying, not really. But the feeling of suffocating, of not being able to breathe, made every instinct in her body scream for survival. Griffin glared down at her. "What meds? Stop pretending. I have seen this act before." Years ago, Taya only had 1 heart attack in front of him, and he'd thought she was faking it to get money. After that, she'd hidden her heart condition from him. But now, since no one was around, Taya reached for him, her hand trembling. She felt like she was giving up and closed her eyes. She saw the light like she had died. Maybe it was her time. She had accepted it. Then her world started spinning, and as Griffin looked at her sick face closely, reality dawned upon him. She wasn't acting. She really was on the verge of a heart attack. He hugged her tightly to calm her heart a bit. Taya forced her eyes open and looked up to see Griffin. She couldn't quite read his expression, but he was holding her really tight, like he was afraid of losing her. Griffin remembered her last heart attack and hated himself for every moment he didn't believe her. And even worse, today he really went too far in torturing her. She was in this condition because of him. He was regretting every bad thing he ever did to her. Griffin quickly settled her in the back seat and sped up as fast as he could. Right now, nothing mattered to him except Taya. Meanwhile, Taya used every ounce of strength she had to turn her head and look at Griffin. He was focused on the road, driving way too fast. "Go back to your mate," she choked out. "Don't worry about me." Her voice was way too frail, and she still couldn't breathe. Griffin frowned and glanced at her, but didn't say anything. As soon as the car came to a stop, he got out and rushed around to her side of the car to get her out. Taya murmured, "I don't want a hospital. I would be fine if I just stayed away from you and your torture. Leave me alone." Griffin was stunned at her words. Did she really hate her so much? But nothing mattered to him right now except Taya's life. He picked her up in his arms and felt her cool skin against him. Her temperature was dropping rapidly, or maybe her heart was failing fast. Either way, Griffin's heart trembled. "Listen to me, Taya. You're struggling to breathe and there's oxygen in the hospital. Please stay calm for a few more seconds. We have reached." After comforting her, Griffin held her tightly and ran straight to the emergency room. Dr. Stella, I think she's had a heart attack. Please help. His voice was filled with repent. He wanted to turn back time, take back every cruel word, every moment he made her feel worthless. He would give her the best doctors, the rarest medicines, even beg the moon goddess herself anything if she would just open her eyes again. But as he stood outside the emergency room, drenched in guilt, only one thought haunted him. Was he too late to confess?
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.